I am super excited to introduce you to the 8 speakers from the Big Talk Academy Virtual Showcase Spring 2024 cohort. These incredible speakers entertain, educate, inspire, and invite you to think bigger and how you can have global impact by listening to their incredible stories. Enjoy. Anne Nicholls, a retired teacher and lecturer, mother of 5, lives in London. Working with numerous committees in Kenya, she provides menstrual and sexual health education together with reusable pads to close the gender gaps, eliminate the shame and stigma of menstruation, and she currently focuses including boys into these conversations. Please welcome to the stage Anne Nicholls with Changing the Paradigm of Menstruation, Enlisting the Boys as Allies, period.
Nina Mimba, Grace whispered, I'm pregnant. Grace is just 13. She had been coerced into having sex in exchange for the period pads she so desperately needed to go to school. Mary is 15 and has HIV. Elizabeth doesn't go to school when she bleeds. Her family simply cannot afford to buy pads. These are the harsh realities of the girls that I work with in Kenya. Innocence lost, potential denied, and dreams destroyed. Living in poverty and without period protection, they can miss 4 to 5 days of precious education every month. This absence has consequences, not just for loss of education, but leaving them vulnerable to child marriage, adolescent pregnancy, and gender-based violence. And with some, like Grace and Mary, easy prey, lured into sex in exchange for hygiene and period products. Abuse, exploitation, perpetuated by poverty, silence, stigma, and shame. I grew up in Kenya, and it was magical. My father worked for the Veterinary and Agricultural Service, and we lived remotely high up in the Rift Valley. I loved it. I hated school. Speak when you're spoken to, with the occasional thwack on the legs with a stick. I was shy, terrified of the sting of that stick. So I learned to keep my mouth firmly shut. But I've learned to speak, and I now learn to shout loudly for these girls. Menstruation. A silence often spoken with euphemisms. Some religious and cultural taboos dictate that. Some religious and cultural taboos handed down through the generations dictate that during this bloody mess, we are impure, unfit to serve food or enter holy spaces. Menstrual products marketed as sanitary, fragrance to conceal odors, leaving us in no doubt that periods are dirty. This stigma, this shame, this invisible power needs to be challenged and addressed. Periods need to exist. They are essential to human reproduction and survival. We are preparing and nurturing our bodies for a new and precious life. And if pregnant, we're glowing, radiant, blooming. But if that life is not formed and we bleed, we are impure. I know that not all women bleed. Some men have periods, and some non-binary people also menstruate. But for the focus of this talk, I am concentrating on those who were born and identify as men and women. The Kenyan government recognised the problem and provided pads for schools, but there's never enough. They're full of plastic, they're harsh chemicals, and they're not sustainable. We made and gave reusable pads, washable, beautiful cotton, now lasting for 6 years. But the shame runs deep, and the girls would not dry them in the sun. Why? Because a man might see them. We teach menstrual, sexual, and reproductive health, educating, empowering the girls to learn about their bodies. And this, together with the reusable pads, is having a huge impact. However, when teaching the girls, the boys became curious. They peeked in the windows, they peered around the doors before being scolded and shooed away by the teachers. So I invited them in. They were angry, they were upset, they were rejected. Why were they being excluded from these lessons and not receiving the goodie bags that the girls were? I asked them to talk and share their beliefs, and let's see if we can address the misconceptions. They told me, you could die if you had sex with someone on their period. They could poison your food or the plants would die. Now, while we may laugh, these are the boys who will become men, agents of their desires. And sadly, some of them will be perpetrators of teasing, bullying, shaming, and coercion. She's hysterical, code red. She's irrational, time of the month. Understanding our cycle is vital for our health. We teach the girls to track their cycle and learn about the emotions and behaviors of our hormones. It's important for the boys to know how testosterone works too, so we can all be empowered to have a better health and well-being. To know that some days you are euphoric, happy, ready to take on the world, and some days you have such low energy, everyone's getting on your nerves, and it's not the best time to start an argument. Period poverty is not just about the lack of pads and facilities. It's about the social exclusion, the shame that still exists, and the gender inequalities worldwide. As the mother of 4 boys, they had the period talk, the one and done, and then a regurgitation of facts for their GCSE biology, most of which is forgotten. Meet Dan. I've known Dan for 6 years now. He is the most wonderful teacher of Magoso School in Kibera, the slums of Nairobi. There are 750 pupils in this school, tiny, tiny school. And the ethos of respect and consideration within this school is truly remarkable. And I've been to many schools. So don't doubt its possibility. So let's encourage the next generation to be proud, not ashamed, honoured, not stigmatised, educated, not ignorant, who support and challenge rather than perpetuate the stigma and taboo. No more one and done. No more euphemisms. Let's change the paradigm. Enlist the boys as allies. Lead with pride. Have no more dirty little secrets. Period. Thank you.
So amazing, Anne. So good. So good. Great set, great wardrobe, great delivery. You did it. Tech worked, sound worked. When we have a tech hiccup, and we had a few today, you stayed in it. And this is not going to be the last time you're speaking and the tech has hiccups from our side, not yours. And you stayed in it beautifully. We are going to fix those tech hiccups in post, so your video will be perfection. But the way you stayed in it, it enabled us to not care. If you had pointed it out or allowed it to throw you, then we would have been distracted. But because you didn't, we were continuing to listen and watch you, and we knew that they would be corrected. And that is the exact way to do this moving forward. You did it beautifully.
Thank you.
I would invite you to not use air quotes. You don't need them. You've got enough content that supports what you're saying. I love how you delivered with such articulate compassion and expertise. I love that periods need to exist for life. You remind us why we need periods, and it seems so obvious, but we needed to hear that then. I also really appreciated that you made it clear that this talk is specifically for people who identify as men and women. I love the use of your slides. I think those images are really, really beautiful and powerful, and I love seeing you on location. You're welcome. Careful not to touch your necklace. You adjusted your necklace a few times. So this is a great example. If you rehearse with a piece of jewelry and it's bothering you and you keep adjusting it, lose the jewelry, even though I do love that necklace.
Thank you.
Code red, she's hysterical, time of the month. I love that section a lot. And in that moment, you raised your hands up into the frame and I noticed you were holding something. Are you holding something that is important for you in terms of your talk? And that was something that you made a choice to do? Yeah, okay, great. As long as you know as a speaker why you're holding something, and I often speak with a pen because I'm taking notes. If you're on stage and you want to have your special gem or stone, own it. And you owned that beautifully. And I did notice it and I did think about it once. So be mindful if you're going to hold something and it's part of what you need to center and to connect to, don't play with it. So you can hold it, just don't play with it. And then I want you also to be super mindful of when you lose track, which will happen, you're a human being. And I want you to be mindful of what you do physically. Okay. You brought your hands up to your face and you don't need to do that. And you don't need to say sorry, just keep going. Okay. I also loved that you shared with us that you have 4 boys and they've had the period talk, one and done. Again, a really good example of you walking the walk and teaching and enlisting boys as our allies. Encouraging the next generation to be and to get educated was a great call to action. I think everyone who is going to watch this talk will start to think differently about how to have the conversation about periods and starting to bleed with pride. I'm so proud of you. Beautiful, beautiful work.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're so welcome, Anne. Thank you for watching the Big Talk Academy Virtual Showcase Spring 2024 cohort. If you love these talks, definitely share in the comments so that we can fully support you. And if you want to get on my big stage, head over to thebigtalkacademy.com so we can make your dream of having impact a reality. Big love. Mwah.